we abase Providence too much by ascribing our own notions to it, being vexed that we can't understand it. But, again, if it's impossible to understand it, then, I repeat, it is hard to have to answer for something it is not given to man to understand. And if so, how are they going to judge me for being unable to understand the true will and laws of Providence? No, we'd better leave religion alone. But enough! When I get to these lines, the sun will probably already be risen and resounding in the sky, and a tremendous, incalculable force will pour out on all that is under the sun. So be it. I will die looking straight into the wellspring of force and life, and I will not want this life. If it had been in my power not to be born, I probably would not have accepted existence on such derisive conditions. But I still have the power to die, though I'm giving back what's already numbered. No great power, no great rebellion either. A last explanation, I am by no means dying because I cannot endure these 3 weeks. Oh, I would have strength enough, and if I wanted to, I could be sufficiently comforted by the very consciousness of the offense done to me, but I am not a French poet and do not want such comforting. Finally, there is the temptation. Nature has so greatly limited my activity by her 3-week sentence that suicide may be the only thing I still have time to begin and end of my own will. So, maybe I want to use my last opportunity of matter, doing something? A protest is sometimes no small. The explanation was over. Hippolyte finally stopped. There is in extreme cases that degree of ultimate cynical frankness, when a nervous man, irritated and beside himself, no longer fears anything and is ready for any scandal, even glad of it, he throws himself at people, having at the same time an unclear but firm goal of certainly leaping from a belfry a minute later and thus resolving at once all misunderstandings, in case they turn up along the way. An imminent exhaustion of physical strength is usually an indication of this state. The extreme, almost unnatural tension that had so far sustained Hippolyte had reached that ultimate degree. In himself this 18-year-old boy, exhausted by illness, seemed as weak as a trembling leaf torn from a tree, but he no sooner looked around at his listeners, for the first time during the last hour, than the same haughty, almost contemptuous and offensive revulsion showed at once in his eyes and smile. He hurried with his defiance. But his listeners were also totally indignant. They were all getting up from the table with noise and vexation. Fatigue, wine, and tension had heightened the disorderliness and, as it were, the filth of the impressions, if it may be so expressed. Suddenly Hippolyte jumped quickly from his chair, as if torn from his place. "The sun has risen," he cried, seeing the glowing treetops and pointing them out to the prince like a miracle. "It's risen. 20. "And did you think it wouldn't, or what?" observed Ferdishenko. "Another whole day of torrid heat," Ganya muttered with careless vexation, hat in hand, stretching and yawning. "Well, there may be a month of drought like this." "Are we going or not, Tin?" Hippolyte listened with an astonishment that reached the point of stupefaction. Suddenly he turned terribly pale and began to shake all over. "You're very clumsily affecting your indifference in order to insult me," he addressed Ganya, looking at him point blank. "You're a scoundrel?" "Well, devil knows, a man shouldn't unbutton himself like that," shouted Ferdishenko. "What phenomenal weakness!" "Simply a fool," said Ganya. Hippolyte restrained himself somewhat. "I understand, gentlemen," he began, trembling and faltering at each word as before, "that I may deserve your personal vengeance and, I'm sorry that I wore you out with this raving." He pointed to the manuscript, "though I'm sorry I didn't wear you out completely." He smiled stupidly. "Did I wear you out, Yevgeny Pavlik?" He suddenly jumped over to him with the question. "Did I wear you out, or not?" "Speak." It was a bit drawn out, but anyhow. "Say it all. Don't lie for at least once in your life," Hippolyte commanded, trembling. "Oh, it decidedly makes no difference to me." "Do me a favor, I beg you, leave me in peace." Yevgeny Pavlovich squeamishly turned away. "Good night, Prince." Tin went over to the prince. "But he's going to shoot himself now, don't you see?" "Look at him!" cried Vera, and she rushed to Hippolyte in extreme fright and even seized his hands. "He said he'd shoot himself at sunrise, don't you see?" He won't shoot himself. Several voices muttered gloatingly, Ganya's among them. Watch out, gentlemen. Kolya cried, also seizing Ippolit by the hand. Just look at him. Prince! Prince, don't you see? Vera, Kolya, Keller, and Burdovsky crowded around Ippolit, all four seized him with their hands. He has the right, muttered Burdovsky, who nevertheless looked quite lost. Excuse me, Prince, what are your orders? Lebedev went up to the prince, drunk and spiteful to the point of impudence. What orders? No, sir, excuse me, sir, I'm the host, sir, though I do not wish to show a lack of respect for you. Let's grant that you, too, are the host, but I don't want any of that in my own house, so there, sir. He won't shoot himself, it's a boyish prank, General Ivolgin cried unexpectedly with indignation and aplomb. Bravo, General. Ferdishchenko picked up. I know he won't shoot himself, General, my much esteemed General, but all the same, for I'm the host. Listen, Mr. Terentiev, Tin said suddenly, having taken leave of the prince and holding his hand out to Ippolit, in your notebook I believe you mention your skeleton and bequeath it to the academy? It's your skeleton, your very own, that is, your own bones, that you're bequeathing? Yes, my own bones. Aha,